be heard and to be seen and to be felt. Why did I say so? This is because we are hosting an audiovisual radio experience that you can count on anytime, any day, as you get across social media platforms right there, talking about YouTube. Subscribe right there and get onto the Facebook page wall and give us a like, give us a following, acknowledge where it is that you are watching from in the comment section, and you can as well share so that every other person around you will be fully aware with what is going on here, right? And just to also put it out there to you, congratulations to each and every one of you, because you have made it to work, in the sense that about 32 countries of the world listen to us and watch us as it stands, right? So that feels good. You made that possible, but we can do more, to taking this to ensuring that the eagle itself has its wings still soaring highly. Now, that being said, it is the 23rd day in the month of December of 2024. My name is Uduak Daniel.
And I am Omoefe Piso Semere, back, pumped up, and
that's right.
The energy is still a little bit below 10.
It's going to grow. It's going to grow in a short bit.
Of course.
But yeah, remember that just during the pages at the 7 o'clock hour, we made mention of the fact that we would be looking into the issue of the palliative sharing that went down just in the recent times. We'll be looking intricately into it, and also have to have a one-on-one conversation with you, right? So it's just going to be you and us, engaging in this discourse this morning. I mean, it's the Yuletide season already coming upon us, and quite a number of strange things. In the words of Thames, she says, crazy things are happening, right? And crazy things are really happening at this very point in time. And should we be able to connect with our guest, we will indeed also connect with him, just to have his own 2 cents on, some of these issues, especially from the economic perspective. We're talking about none other but Dr. Yusho Aliyu, who is a professional economist, a policy management member, and public affairs analyst. Now let's get into it right away. I mean, we're looking at a topical issue that goes palliatives, the Yuletide amid stampedes in Nigeria. Palliatives is a kicker now. Yuletide amid stampedes in Nigeria. I mean, this topic of palliatives during the Yuletide season in Nigeria is a very sensitive one. I mean, as it often brings to mind images of stampedes and chaos. I mean, in the recent years, we've seen the distribution of palliatives, such as food and cash, and it has become common practice in Nigeria, particularly during the Christmas and New Year holidays. It almost seems as if they always wait for that period of time, where, of course, it is the time of sharing and giving, to, ram out, these palliative measures as it stands, for the people.
I beg to differ. I think the time of the year or the season where palliatives are actually shared the most would have to do with the electioneering period, right?
Oh, yes.
The palliatives are usually rolled out in their numbers.
Yeah, I forgot that part.
However, the distribution of these palliatives often turns violent, with people stampeding and fighting to get their hands on the limited resources.
That's right.
This has resulted in injuries, death, and destruction of property.
Just to also put it out there, Omoefe, you should also, have it in mind that the Nigerian government and other organizations, they have been criticized for their handling of palliative, distribution. I mean, what many people are arguing that the process is disorganized and that it lacks transparency. In fact, the lack of a clear, an efficient system for distributing palliatives, it has led to chaos. It has led to violence, right? Sometimes, and these often, accompany all of these events. And in the wake of these, palliative sharing also continues to gather some sort of momentum, as even the private sector has indulged the general public to give palliatives, and this has led to, the recent chaotic stampedes that just occurred a few days ago, right?
Right.
And
Well,
I don't know.
From the look of things,
Yeah.
if you must do some sort of comparative analysis, it
Yes.
appears in terms of the Nigerian government, handling palliative or taking charge of palliative distribution to
Yeah.
Nigerians.
Yeah.
The concern has been how disorganized, the process usually is, and the lack of transparency. But coming from the private sector, or
Right.
one that is private sector driven, we hardly hear issues of lack of transparency. But it has also been it has always been a case of the
tussle,
whole
a
tussle,
tug of war,
the whole process
trying
was not
to-
properly organized, no
organizational,
control measures,
yeah.
just like we've seen. Now, despite the challenges, many Nigerians continue to rely on palliatives as a means of survival, but particularly during the holiday season. The economic conditions in Nigeria are harsh.
Right.
I mean, without mincing words, and many people struggle to make ends meet. The palliatives provide a much-needed lifeline, but the violence and chaos that often accompany their distribution undermine their intended purpose. It's really
Right.
very disturbing.
Well, really very disturbing, we might say. But just to also add to it, the recent stampedes in Nigeria occurred in Ibadan, in Abuja.
We're going to say Ibadan?
Ibadan. I was
right.
going to say Ibadan. I'm sorry.
right.
Forgive me. Right, a slip of tongue, I guess. Ibadan,
Ibadan,
Abuja,
yes.
and Okija. That will be in Anambra State, if I'm
That's
not
right,
mistaken.
that's
And with the most recent ones happening at the whole, well, wouldn't want to go mentioning all those names now. And one, of course, happened at a community center in Okija, Anambra State. Another was in Maitama. Now, these incidents resulted in multiple fatalities and injuries, and that has prompted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to cancel his scheduled events in Lagos, including the 2024 Lagos Boat Regatta. Right? Well.
Absolutely. The conversation now, beyond trading blames or apportioning blames, would be measures that should be implemented or put in place to prevent, these events from repeating themselves
Right.
in the nearest future.
Right.
So, but of course, this is not actually the first time that we've seen cases of stampedes, especially when it has to do with kind gestures,
Sure.
right, from well-meaning Nigerians, right? To understand the context of these events, it is essential to examine the historical background
Right.
of similar stampedes in Nigeria. And in recent years, the country has witnessed several incidents of crowd stampedes resulting in lost lives and property.
Talking about, in recent times, some of those incidents that has led to loss of lives, just away from the whole food, pageantry, givings and all of that. It might also suffice to add that we've seen quite a number of other stampedes that has happened in the recent past. I mean, we have seen some stampede that happened as a result of unemployment. If I'm not mistaken, sometimes in, is it 2014 now?
Yeah.
March 15, 2014. We saw the Nigeria Immigration Service recruitment stampede. That's from the unemployment, or employment angle. We also saw the civil defense. We saw, the NIS stampede, right? It occurred at several stadiums across Nigeria, and that also included the National Stadium in Abuja during a recruitment exercise for the Nigeria Immigration Service, and it resulted to about 16 deaths. Right, 16 people, losing their lives, and of course injured many more. However, though, there was also a stampede at the civil defense, recruitment exercise in 2014. Although I can't really place my hands around the information on the exact number of casualties. Right, but it is worth noting that both incidents, have or were widely reported and criticized. I mean, quite a number of us, spoke out at that time. And, the thing always is, Omoefe, we have seen stampedes happen. Stampedes now, we can say, like administrations come and go. It's not like it's a good thing, by the way. It's not a good thing. But they have come and they have gone. Why is it that we are always very reactive? Why is it that we are not handling or treating the root cause of what is causing the stampede? Because most of the time, it is believed that if you don't cut off the head of a hydra, it's not the head. You go and uproot it from its roots itself. Take it all out, right, from the very root, and then you must have demobilized it. But here and now, we have seen stampede happen before. We know what is causing it. We know that poverty, insecurity, hunger is the bane of it. And yet, we have seen administrations come and go, bringing their respective differential stampedes along with them. Yeah. And it's the same denominator that all of these stampedes have. And just as I would like to reflect or juxtapose the National Meteorological Agency's report on flooding, if you recall. And NIMET will always come and tell us how the flooding is going to happen and all of that. We know that these things are there. But take caution ahead and all of that. But what about saying, okay, this has happened this year. We saw many communities submerged, yeah? This has happened this year. What must we now do so that it doesn't happen next year?
You know, when it comes to the role that must be played in terms of mitigating unfortunate events, it actually cuts across board beyond NIMET, as it were. We're using the instance of NIMET, for example, now coming out to issue, warning or alert, notices to Nigerians with regards to flood and what have you. Nigerians, I mean ourselves, I'm talking about you, myself, and people listening out there. Do we also take these, advisories? Do we take them seriously?
Okay.
I'll leave that question to Nigerians.
Are you talking about the fact that we have a role to play? Is that what you're saying?
It's strict. You can't leave everything to the government. We all have a role to play.
But what happened to lead by example, Omoife?
Hold on a minute.
I'm serious.
Is it the government that would come tell you to build on waterways?
No, it's not
the government. Is it the government that will also tell you to throw dirt on drainages to get them blocked? It is not the government. I agree the government has a role to play by way of sensitizing, Nigerians. But are we babies? These sensitizations have been, it's more like a yearly routine, but we still have cases of, houses getting, submerged. Almost everywhere.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ on my face. It's disturbing, I agree with you, but then I still beg to differ. If it was not the government, then why then do we have a government? We could just tell ourselves that we are government and then we start working
we talk about
everything off.
Who are the government, or who is the
Everybody
government?
is a part and parcel of government.
So that's what we're
but
saying.
It's almost as if, so it goes back to what Judge Orwell said, that even though all animals are equal, but there are some animals that are more equal than the others. Think about it, Omoife. Think about it. I'm talking about being realistic. If the government is not also leading the way in terms of clearing the pathway and putting, certain reforms that will ensure that people fall in line, right, with whatever it is that whatever goodwill policy that they're putting in place, how will I conform as a person, as an individual?
Dear listener, we just had to digress, right, to do a little bit of comparison right here and there, just so you can get sense. So when you call in, your criticisms could be objective and constructive.
Right.
Now, coming back to the home front, looking at the issues on ground, talking about stampedes. Stampedes actually, happen for different reasons. You recall also that sometime in 2019, a stampede at a political rally in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, left several people injured. So like I said, stampedes actually happen for different reasons. A pointer to poverty, a pointer to, the yearnings and aspirations of the people not being met. And, well, unemployment as well. Talking about the case you cited earlier, the recruitment process in 2014. So the issues, they appear to be hydra-headed, if you ask me. But at the end of the day, looking at the recent event, very unfortunate, especially for the fact that these things are happening at a time that Nigerians are supposed to join, the rest of the world to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. This is a season of love, but it's unfortunate that kind gestures have been
met with chaotic circumstances and all of that. But yeah, Omoife, it will also suffice to put it out there that the president has cancelled, his scheduled appearances in Lagos, including the 2024 Lagos Boat Regatta, following the deadly stampedes in Abuja and Anambra State, and of course Oyo State, where 32. This one, I remember, one of our family members this morning saying, I am sending this voice note with a heavy heart. A heavy heart. I think it's Dan, from Kurudu says, with a heavy heart is sending, that voice note. And I felt the pain and the heartbrokenness, from his voice. But does it just do it, saying we're canceling, my appearances? Although the president has commiserated with the victims' families, he had prayed for
a step in the right direction.
Well, it's a step in the right direction.
And it's expected of a leader.
Well, it is expected of a leader, but Nigerians are saying that there should be more to be done in terms of investigation. There should be more to be done in terms of looking into the root cause. I mean, it's a constant thing. It stares us in the face, but then we turn a blind eye, we look the other way, and act as if we don't see it.
Sorry to bother you. Last week, Friday, if I'm not mistaken, during the Pages segment, where the unfortunate event in Oyo State was reported.
Right.
Of course, that made rounds, across the national dailies, and we were also made to understand that an organizer of the event, that's the Oni's ex-wife, was arrested, for questioning and what have you. And a caller called in at that point in time. I think he sent a message, the person of Chinonso, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
and then he said he thinks that these kind gestures, they have the backing, it's like a wave from, it is demonic, for the lack of, for the lack of better word. And just shortly after, we saw cases of this same, trend in Abuja and also in Anambra State. So it's beyond whether it is a wave from the pit of hell. This speaks to reality, and we just have to deal with the issues headlong.
And one question will just, come out already. How can the government ensure that event organizers prioritize public safety, especially and what measures, can be implemented to prevent similar stampedes in the future? You might as well want to consider a personal story. I mean, you and I, you were discussing a personal story with me. You might want to share that story.
Right. A survivor of the stampede in Abuja, who, of course, wishes to remain anonymous, shared her harrowing experience. In her words, I quote, "I was attending the event with my family when suddenly people started pushing and shoving. I got separated from my loved ones and I couldn't find them anywhere. I was trampled upon and I thought I was going to die. Luckily, some good Samaritans helped me to safety." The survivor's account highlights the human impact of the stampede and the need for effective crowd control measures. I just to also put it, also out that yesterday I actually was watching a breakfast show on a national television, one of the many reputable channels out there, and one of the anchors actually said something that her children actually went for like an end of year party as well, and a similar event also occurred. The stage, which was, artificially, of course, erected and made, built, it actually fell.
What?
Yes, it fell. And according to her, that was really very disturbing for her. She was really very disturbed. But as at the time that happened, they couldn't ascertain if, lives were lost or, people got injured and what have you. But the good thing, is the fact that her children were actually unhurt.
Right.
So that's to tell you that, again, earlier we somehow registered the fact that the government has, a lot more to do. That if we have realistic reforms, then people wouldn't want to, troop out in their numbers, to go get palliatives, right? And that, because of course people have different, viewpoints as far as this subject matter is concerned. Others are saying that is the attitude of Nigerians when it comes to free gifts or free things. But come on, you and I, we didn't go out there to get these palliatives, not because we have too much in our possession, but to some extent we can actually, cater for basic needs, on a daily basis.
That's right.
So what happens to the average man on the street? Should the average man on the street who actually went out there to get these palliatives be thrown away? I mean, it's just like throwing away the baby and the bathwater.
I get that. Should
Do you know how many people are homeless, sleeping under the bridges across Nigeria, especially at this time that the Hamatan is dealing mercilessly with people? How many people can actually afford 3 square meals a day?
How many people can afford housing, a roof over their heads?
The case in Anambra State, from the videos we've seen, we saw people, parting ways with, hefty bags of rice. How much is a bag of rice today? So we'll just try to see how we can strike a balance, while, assessing or analyzing this very unfortunate event.
But in the midst of all of these unfortunate events, right, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, he has warned politicians against linking stampedes that occurred during food, distributions in Oyo, Anambra, and Abuja to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic reforms. And then it begs the question, if we don't link it to him, then who should we link it to? And then others are arguing that this is a private sector,
driven palliative
distribution. Why then must you take it back to the president? Why not just address
the
people?
The takeaway will be the fact that this has to do with hunger, because even last year, for some of these churches, it's a yearly tradition or ritual for them to give food items to people at the end of every year. So was this the case last year?
That's the question.
This year things obviously quite hard. Things actually took a different dimension this year, and that's the much reason why people, they couldn't even stay on the line, for example, to wait for these palliatives to get to them. And from the videos we've also seen, we saw, and it just goes to show you how the power of diversity, to tell you that poverty knows no region, it knows no religion, and it knows nobody,
no tribe,
whether you're a
no
politician
language,
or
no
not.
nothing. Yeah?
Because we saw Christians and even Muslims, women dressed in their hijabs, and even the regular women that we have who are not Muslims, all because they are hungry. The bottom line is people are hungry. So somehow, no pun intended, but one would say this comment made by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, it actually smacks of this level of distaste and insensitivity.
Well, he's not even coming from that angle. In fact, he's coming from the place where confirming that the tragedies underscored the importance of ensuring proper crowd management during such charitable activities, especially in the festive season. Remember now, or recall why I said that most of the time we see the problem staring right in front of us, but we turn the blind eye, we turn the other way and say, well, this is not the issue. I think what we really need is a effective crowd management support system to ensuring that we are able to put everybody in line. But you made mention of something about impatience, right? Where people cannot stay patient on the lines. Is that also something that you blame the government for? Shouldn't this be values that we should have been able to have adopted? But should we, because of hardship and poverty, now not be able to leave our values?
Well, I'm sure you're aware. There is a saying that a hungry man is an angry man.
I agree with you. But I saw an interview where, somebody was on social media right there asking Kenyans, what they think about us. Aside the whole crime, the Yahoo and everything, one thing that I kept on hearing was that we are impatient people. Impatient. We just want it to happen now. Fast. Right? But if you also look at it in terms of our DNA, as seen from outside the shores of Nigeria, especially other African countries, are we really not impatient people? Right? Especially when we are within the shores of Nigeria. But it seems as though when we go outside the shores of Nigeria, we are a different type of Nigerian.
I beg to differ, because entertainment, concerts, music concerts have been organized, right, outside the shores of Nigeria.
Right.
And we also saw cases of stampedes. So the impatience we're talking about is not just typical of Nigerians.
All right, we open the phone lines now and get to hear from you. What are your thoughts about the Yuletide, season stampede that's gone off right there in 3 states so far? They've been happening in quick successions right there. We saw in Anambra State, Okija precisely. We saw in Abuja, in Maitama, and we also saw in Ibadan, or your state, right? A capital right there. You might as well want to let us know. The number would be
0907-353-0044 or 0908-766-8888.
Right.
You can send a voice note or a message to the WhatsApp portal on 0909-705-4450.
Well, apologies though. Let's just go on a recess. We'll be right back in a short bit.
Right.
Are you ready for this?
Keep this frequency clear.
We're live. I woke up with a Eagles FM 102.3 Abuja.
Education is the major determinant of individuals' development and societal transformation, as individuals of educated societies are productive and patriotic in nation building, while uneducated societies are more prone to developmental challenges such as unemployment, insecurity, and underdevelopment, especially amongst the growing population, as available statistics in Nigeria shows that there are 20 million out-of-school children, in which about 12 million of them are in northern Nigeria, a number that is threatening the peace, security, and the social well-being of the country. Based on this assertion, the Universal Basic Education Commission UBEC is calling on Nigerians in rural and urban centers, especially parents, to always send their children to schools for them to have a qualitative education. Apart from parents, community leaders such as royal fathers, religious leaders, youth organizations, and the civil society have critical roles to play in ensuring that children are sent to school in their respective communities. It is only by so doing that we can all have educated, productive, and responsible leaders of tomorrow. Remember, education is the key to success.
This message is from UBEC.
Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja, here to stay.
I don't need no liquor. I'm intoxicated by you.
My country people, who work is supposed to enjoy you after all the hustle. You not supposed to take your comfort play to fit sleep the way it's supposed to be. Make you go grab your Eurofoam mattress. Make you forget your full comfort. Whether na Euro Spring, Euro Orthopedic, or semi-orthopedic, Diamond and Diamond Plus. And for Comfort Pro Max, Eurofoam don't introduce latest in town. That na Euro Elite. This one, they sleep jolly meant no get equal. Eurofoam get quality pillows and sheetings. Eurofoam shop yakpa everywhere for Bodo Nigeria. Eurofoam, sleep the
Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja, here to stay.
My people, the thing where they happen for my area,
Do you think I will now find out that you have contract to bring fresh girls?
I brought you from the gutters. Who gave you all the connects? MDG who? Without me, you would have been nobody. But
Join Media Coalition and Awareness to Halt Human Trafficking, MICAT, on I Wish I Knew radio drama every Saturday at 10 a.m. Let us join hands and kick human trafficking out of our communities. I Wish I Knew radio drama, brought to you by MICAT in partnership with the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NATIP, and funded by the Embassy of Denmark in Nigeria.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
And yes, we're back from the recess right there. This is Eagles Outlook, where we talk politics and current affairs. And we're still looking at the topical issue which borders around the kicker, Palliatives, Yuletide, amid stampedes in Nigeria. We gave you the numbers, and let's hear from you. Hello and good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning to you.
It's Oganamano from Mando.
Sorry?
All right,
Oganamano, right. Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good to hear your voice.
Let me begin to ask. In the course of your analysis with Woodwork,
yes, please.
You said in terms of law, the people are not heeding to the instruction given by the government.
Not everyone.
Not to build on waterways and the rest. Now, are you telling me that the flood that is being affected the people in Nigeria is being caused by their inability to heed to the government's instruction? Now, my place and your place is Sokoland, is prone to flood. You are from women. I told you I have from Araya. Then during the flood, we are always affected. To me, the cause of the flood being affecting us is most of the lakes in our area needed to be drained,
to be desilted, yeah.
By the government. But the government refused to do this. Then in the national sourcing, there was an arrangement between Cameroon and Nigeria to build a dam in Nigeria, so that when Cameroon will release their water from their dam, it will not take care of their water. But as we talk, Nigeria government have not built that dam. And you are saying that it is the people not taking to the advice of government. The government has its role to play, and we our role to play. Then coming here, it has been a recurrent festival. Every year we face flood, and what the government will only do is giving people palliatives. At the end of it, it is the bag of rice, other rice or mattresses, pillow, and the rest. And it ends that at the coming year again, it should be the same thing. So the government to me is not doing what is expected of it. Let there be a final, a lasting solution to this flooding issue in Nigeria by the government dredging the River Niger and all those lakes in our area, so that when those lakes are dredged, when water comes, the lake can accumulate or accommodate a large number of the water. So that is how I see that. Then, excuse me, on the Minister of Information and National Orientation saying people should not blame on the current government, that it's not their fault, this is blah 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 blah. Well, to me, whom are they working for? The Minister of Information and Orientation Chairman are the director. If they didn't do that, who will pay them?
Okay, I get that.
Thank you very much.
Ogenemano right there.
Mr. Austin.
Yes, Austin. It says if they don't do, the PR job, who will pay them? So even if they knew the truth and the truth stands right there in front of them, they still, decide to speak it, from the other side of the mouth right there. And yes, Mr. Austin, you were right about the Nigerian government, not having built, a dam between the Nigeria-Cameroon waters to control, flooding, caused by the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. And he really made something very clear. I mean, it's been a recurring case, right? That's why I told you earlier on my faith that, look, this thing should be more of a government issue. Because if you don't lead by example, how then would you want me to follow suit?
It's okay to lead by example. And of course, that also points to the top to bottom approach that we're talking about. But sometimes it's okay for you to flip the script or the coin. Now, sometimes when we have, cases of flood or flooding, as it were, in Nigeria, it's not always because of, the Cameroon dam, the Lagdo Dam, you understand, releasing water. Sometimes a heavy rainfall too could also cause, this, intense or heavy flooding in Nigeria.
Right.
And in cases like that, it is advised that people desist from, building on waterways, canals, and even throwing dirt on drainages. So that crusade continues. So whilst it's okay for you to, call on the government to do the needful, when necessary, the citizens should also look inward.
All right, so talking about looking inward right there, the conversation is still trending right here, 0907-353-0044 or 0908-766-8888. The WhatsApp portal number is
0909-705-4450. Hello, good morning.
Nazwa. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Lady Amoife.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, please. I am Comrade Olabase.
Oh, Comrade.
Good to have you, Comrade.
Comrade, feels good to hear your voice. Talk to us.
Thank you, sir.
Where are you calling from?
Hello. I'm coming from Buhari.
Awesome. So, all right, let's get into it.
Okay, there. Please, why we sympathize with those affected by the stampede and loss of life? Why we assume that the cause of the stampede could be logically attributed to widespread hunger? I would like to add that it might not just be hunger alone. The other thing that should be looked at is people's attitude towards food. There is a common approach, average Nigeria, But there's a common approach a common Nigerian has towards three things, and that is three things must be consumed at all costs. Whether they need it or not, we see this thing play out in many occasions where there is free food, free clothes, and even free medical treatment. Maybe from the way an average Nigerian who goes to an occasion where the medical team even must insist on going home with drugs, even if he's not sick, he will insist on going home, even if even with antibiotics. Meanwhile, he has no need of it. Again, where clothes are given freely is an opportunity to add to one's wardrobe. It's common to see people begging and pushing to be given t-shirts in public events. Back to the foods and drinks. This is where a good number of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
For some people, they must eat in an event where food and drinks are served, even when they are not invited. Why you say all these things, all these stampedes, it's not because people involved do not have their meals anywhere. Rather, it is because of greed, lack of orderliness, to wait for their turn. And they're going to get more of what they get. So that is what I can say towards most of these things. I know, other to the economic hardships, brought upon Nigerians by some, unpopular government policies. Of course, that has exacerbated what is happening today. So we should, as people, inculcate self-respect and integrity wherever free things are given, that we will not be victims of what we are planning for. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Olabasi, right
Makes
there.
sense.
Well, yeah, it's greed. Greed is, the bane of it, and it goes on to, also bringing forth the human nature itself.
Right.
Even if we had a good economy, on my faith, trust me. Do you agree that, and should there be a palliative sharing? People will still get
at this
there.
point in time, no pun intended, but it is believed that this is the greed we should be praying for to collapse on a daily basis.
Right.
The greed that should
So,
collapse on a daily basis.
Not the other,
right?
Okay, not the other. Okay, I get that.
Greed.
But we see that again very clear. We talk about poverty. We talk about unemployment. We talk about the lack of basic amenities. We talk about quite a number of things that we believe that the government should provide, but we don't even talk about certain value system. Remember, I made mention of value. And greed, could also be one of such. If you don't have a good value system, you're not well trained, well bred, and all of that, greed will step into it.
I agree.
When greed steps into it, in fact, it corrupts you as a person, and then you want to opt for something that probably you really don't need, but just because you want to amass. And that's what we also see is a fundamental issue that Comrade Olabasi, had put out there. Some of the politicians, if not most of them, have been driven by greed, excessive greed, such that you've been giving certain allocations that's supposed to look out for the people under your constituency, but because of greed, you have decided that it's just going to be about you, yourself, your wife, your children,
unborn.
and your generation unborn, and that's it. People's collective rights dragged in the mud, forgotten, abused, and left to hang on a tree without salvation. I don't know if that pictures the exact scenario that we are facing today, but you might as well want to tell us now this time what you think could be, some of the way out from this tragedy that we are facing at this point in time. But we see this one coming from Abaz, right there. It says, Sir UD and Madam Omefe, please, I want to plead with President Tinubu if there is any way he can reintroduce the 8,000 naira palliative to vulnerable Nigerians. He should please reintroduce that policy back, not minding the criticism that troll is policy on the first time or in the first place. It's now obvious Nigerians truly need stipends at difficult times to survive. Furthermore, organizers of palliative sharing are to be blamed because they always want to draw attention to themselves through palliative distribution. When they saw the crowd, they should have just halted the proceedings to avoid such occurrences. Right? Abbas right there reporting from Dutse. Abbas is saying that, well, I think it's time for us to get back with a monetary palliative and all of that, and maybe that will go a long way. As
well,
quite
we'll
a
still
number.
come back here to criticize that.
That's the thing. That's the
Come
thing.
on.
Because
8,000 naira. If you get 8,000 naira at this point in time, I mean, how realistic is that for you when a bag of rice is over 70,000 naira? Chicken costs 25,000 naira, as it was reported on the Punch newspaper last week.
Right.
Turkey, 130,000.
Onion
a bag
bag,
of 250,000
naira.
Vegetable oil and other essentials. You talk about transportation cost as well, among other things. But let's take this message from Turkin Bihundu. He says, good morning, Daniel and Ife.
Good morning to you,
I represent Nasarawa State. The harsh policies by this federal government has everything to do with acute hunger being experienced by poor Nigerians. It seems the information minister stays in another planet and not in contact with reality. However, I'm convinced that the organizers of those palliative programs really meant well for the vulnerable and hopeless Nigerians, but taking children who can't withstand the pressure of being among huge crowd is bad on the side of the parents. Turkin Bihundu there. Thank you so much for that message.
Right, appreciate that one from you, Turkin B right there. You too can add your voice in the discourse and let us know, where do you think that we could have done it rightly? Is palliative even a bad idea? I mean, or is it the type of palliative that we practice in Nigeria?
Can we look beyond palliatives? Because when it comes to palliatives, distribution of palliatives in Nigeria, it's almost a tradition that what you expect at the end of the day is, or what you get at the end of the day is basically rice, right? And then maybe cash.
In very little quantity.
Yes.
As well. That might not even go beyond a day. That is if it serves you for a day, for a family of 5. Most of his palliatives are nothing but beggarly, feeds. That's why one of the callers, one of the family members had said, we've been turned into beggars, right? Sir D'Anthony Ibrahim earlier this morning mentioned that as though we are chickens, and then they just throw a little stuff on the ground and say, hey, come get it, and then we rush head over heels, for these things. But there are economic factors to it. I mean, the cancellation of President Bola Tinubu's events may have economic, implications, particularly for businesses and individuals who rely on these events for income. So what economic measures can be implemented to mitigate the impact of event cancellation on businesses and individuals? And there are social factors too as well.
We shouldn't worry too much about the economic factors, but the social factors.
Right, very pertinent.
The stampedes in Abuja and Anambra State have social implications, particularly for the families of the victims and those affected by the incident. So the pertinent question would be, how can the government provide support to victims of stampedes and their families, and what measures can be implemented to prevent similar incidents in the future? Now, bottlenecks might be recorded, in terms of trying to reach out to victims of these stampedes and their families, because do we have accurate data system in the country?
Do we have that? We just mentioned the fact that we are about 200 and over 200 million. Some others will say we are over 230 million. Others will come and say we are just above 250 million. How can we be a country that does not even know the size of its population? And yet we are doling out, budget proposals, giving it all sort of names, whether it's renewable, whether it's restoration, whether it's, I don't know what it is.
When we don't know our population.
We don't even know the population. So how do you even plan?
How do you exactly allot or allocate, some of these relief, measures or measures to alleviate the sufferings of the average man on the street when you don't have accurate data?
That's right.
It becomes an issue.
It becomes an issue. I saw just recently a post that says, okay, we are going to be looking into AI, implementation now. Using AI to see how we can get, a buy and all of that in Nigeria and all of that. But then again, it goes back to the place of don't you think that this whole entire giant of Africa is almost getting into our heads? That is, if we're still the giant of Africa, in the sense that we always want to be the first in terms of innovation. We always want to be the first to start something. So Africa will say, oh, we first started in Nigeria. And yes, this is not also to say that we're not held in high esteem. This is not to say that we're not intelligent people. But then, do we really have the technical know-how, the capacity to indeed indulge, certain technological advancements? Others will very quickly argue and say, UD, calm down. If we don't make a start, how then do we even get better in the processes? That everything takes a process. But we have seen governments come and governments go, and they have brought in their different processes. Some of them have spent 4 years, others have spent 8 years, and in fact, some of them, some are even vying for a 6-year single term, and all of that. And all of these are processes. But it does seem as though, as some who have been political analysts, as well as those who have given their pertinent eyes to the happenings in the country, saying as though we are moving on the speed of a snail, and that it doesn't seem as though we are making some of those indelible, marks that we should make in our generation, as much as to secure the future generation. But are we really planning for a future generation? Because if we are, it was so disturbing on my face. 32 children lost their lives in Ibadan. In Ibadan. And now we have seen another one spread. It seems like now the North is, you said the North was relaxing at this point, because we're not even seeing anything go on in the North. It's not like
people assume that
the poverty, the hunger rates always in the North. No, this has shown us that the hunger, the poverty, and everything is experienced by every region. It's not a northern thing. It doesn't have a northern face, right? Abia State is southeast now, with Oyo southwest, if I'm not mistaken, right? Abuja north central, and all of that. Come on,
not Abia State, Anambra State.
Anambra State. I beg your pardon. Thank you for that correction, Omoife. Anambra State, right there. But then, how do we now prevent these? We talk about crowd management. Do we not have, the establishments that should indeed look into crowd management issues? Does this mean that the people who are organizing events are not well informed into, what the prerequisite might be, for such event, and the exigencies that should be expected in the processes? I don't know.
All right, we have a message here from Comrade Raouf. He says, well done, Yudian Omoife. My name is Comrade Raouf. For similar incident to happen in 3 locations in the country, it's somewhat suspicious that one, would want to think beyond, his or her imagination. This looks like woto abracadabra. To me, this scenario looks extraordinary. It appears there is more to it than what meets the eye.
Right.
Are you, by implication, suggesting or saying that this has some sort of demonic or black power attached to it? But he says, I console, with the parents of those that lost their lives. It's unfortunate and avoidable anyway. The necessary check and balances were not put in place to avoid the mishap. Fire brigade approach to handle our woes every time is not welcomed. Kudos to Eagles FM. He says, thank you so much, Comrade Raouf. And
for that one right there.
Abbas actually sent a message a while ago. He says, please, Omoife, chicken is not 24,000 naira. There is 8,000 naira, there is 10,000 naira, and 12,000 naira chicken. Please, this price is over-exaggerated.
Okay,
but we'd like you to know that we don't come on here to spill things that are not factual, right? It was reported by the Daily Trust newspaper last week, Friday, that chicken actually costs 25,000 naira, turkey 130,000 naira, and we've also seen videos, just a testament to that fact. Across the country, places like Delta, for example, chicken is being sold, at 25,000 naira. So it all depends on your location again. So I think it's very important for us to get that straight.
Right. Well, what